Living fully alive in every way. You're listening to Relationship Prescriptions with Dr. Carol.
Hi friends, it's Dr. Carol and welcome to Relationship Prescriptions. Welcome to 2019. I pray that you had a very blessed Christmas season. I also pray that you are looking forward to what God is going to do with you, for you, and through you in 2019. Excuse my laryngitis. I'm recovering. I feel fine, but if you hear something different in my voice, that's why. If you have had a difficult 2018, you may be looking forward to this new year without a lot of hope, with a lot of angst. The new year is traditionally a time when we look back to see how things have happened in the past, look forward with goals. Some people make New Year's resolutions, and all of that is appropriate. But you may be feeling stuck. You may be finding a hard time holding on to hope for the future. It may seem very difficult for you to see what actions you can take to make things better. Or maybe you just feel like so much is out of your control and it's hard to see that anything could be any better going forward. I want to give you a few thoughts about how to look forward with hope and purpose. Here is a truth that you can hold on to. If you are still breathing, God has a purpose for you. And yes, you're breathing, otherwise you wouldn't be able to listen to this podcast. If you are still alive, God has something for you to do. He is not finished with you. We can sometimes get into the mode of thinking that following Jesus means our life will be easy, that our problems will be gone. Thankfully, God makes an enormous difference in our lives here and now. But Jesus never promised us an easy life. He did promise a meaningful life, a life of purpose. So I encourage you, first of all, not to evaluate your life by how easy it is, but by how meaningful and purposeful it is. And if you are alive, God has something still for you to do. I have been thinking over the last 2 or 3 months in a new way about what God has asked me to do. I am so grateful for you being part of our podcast family. That means so much. And there are other opportunities that God is opening for Dr. Carol Ministries. But I have sensed in a new way that God's purpose for me and for this ministry is greater, is fuller than I have yet realized. I am thinking of a time of prayer when I was deeply wrestling with some of these things with God, and this happened not very many weeks ago, just a few weeks ago. It was as if the Holy Spirit spoke to my soul something so strong, and He said this: "Your vision is too small." Now, I am not a person that believes I hear from God in an audible way or in specific words regularly. When you read Scripture, God's voice was precious. It did not come all the time in the sense of specific words or specific directions. You look at, for example, the book of Isaiah. That was written over decades. It wasn't like every day God's voice would come in the way that we sometimes think. I have sensed God's voice in this clear a way only a few times during my life, but this was one of those times. And it was just such a strong and powerful message to my soul. Your vision is too small. And I want to share that with you today. I believe God is wanting to say the same thing to you, that your vision is too small. Every time God asks something of us or shares some of His purpose for our lives, it's always about something or someone beyond ourselves. As much as God enjoys your joy, His purpose for you is not about you. His purpose for you is about His kingdom. It's about the other people that He wants to bless through you. It's about His message that He wants others to see through your life. It's about something for His kingdom that He has equipped you to do. And I believe that is God's message for you for 2019. Your vision is too small. As you are wrestling with that, perhaps in your own soul, and I pray with God in prayer, let me suggest a couple questions to ask and a couple specific ways to pray that can help you move forward in understanding what God's vision for you may be for 2019. First of all, 2 questions to ask. The first one is, who has God built me to be? For the believer, nothing in your life need be wasted. Everything that you have experienced, the challenges, the successes, what may seem like failures, the people that you have encountered through your life, all of that, God has used to build you into someone very specific. You are not a carbon copy of anyone else. God has not built you like He has built anyone else. Your genetic makeup, the experiences you had as a child, the challenges you have gone through, the opportunities that you have experienced, or frankly, not experienced, the things you have learned, all of that, God has built together in you for a very specific purpose. Who has God built you to be? Sometimes it can be a little challenging to understand how all the pieces of our lives have been fit together for a specific purpose, but that is a useful question to consider. Your job, where you get your income at this point if you are working, may or may not be the primary way that God has built you, for example. So I believe it's appropriate to take some time to really consider, who has God built you to be? The second question is, who is God sending you to help? Remember that God's purpose for you always involves someone or something beyond yourself. Who is that? Whose pain grabs your soul? Whose struggle do you identify with? Whose needs grab at your heart? When you look at the people within your world, who do you notice? There is always someone or many someones that need something you have. And that is an enormous clue to who God needs you to be in 2019. Who is God sending you to help? Now, in moving forward, here are a couple ways that I would encourage you to pray as you contemplate what God needs you to do in 2019. This 2-part prayer is appropriate whenever we meet challenges, but I believe it's also very appropriate when we are praying for God's purpose for us going forward. The first part of this prayer is, Jesus, help me. The purpose God has for you is too big for you to do on your own. If you could truly make happen the purpose you imagine, then your vision is too small. God doesn't just build us a certain way and then send us out on our own. He needs us to cooperate with Him in what He is doing. It's not that we decide what we want to do and then ask God to come along behind and bless it. It's us prayerfully considering, what is God doing in my sphere of influence, and how is He inviting me to cooperate with Him for furthering His kingdom in my world, in my sphere. To make that happen, we cannot rely on our own strength. What God is asking you to do is too big for you to do on your own. So the first part of the prayer, Jesus, help me. Help me understand what you are doing in my world. Help me with the courage and the strength to step into what you are calling me to do. All of that. Jesus, help me. The second part of the prayer is, what step do you want me to take next? Every time God does something in our world or in someone's life, it involves us cooperating with Him. It is not us simply sitting back and asking for God to do something, although He does. He absolutely works. But there is always something He is inviting us to do in cooperating with Him to accomplish that purpose. Sometimes that step may be prayer. For example, if you have a child who has wandered away from God, who you have no contact with, there may be no human action that can change the situation, but you can pray. That may be the step that God needs you to take. Very often, there is something practical that He will invite you to take. For example, if your marriage is struggling, He may invite you to address some things in your own heart, some ways that you have learned in handling conflict or unhealthy communication or lack of intimacy or all the challenges that marriages often experience. He may be inviting you to invest in learning new skills. And in that process, He will bless that effort in restoring your marriage. But in a bigger sense, when God is inviting us to do something in His kingdom, and He always is, there will be something that you practically need to do. It will probably involve stepping out of your comfort zone in some way. God is not after our comfort. He's after our growth and maturity, and then our influence for His kingdom. So when He invites you to step into His purposes for His kingdom in 2019, it will almost certainly involve stepping out of your comfort zone. What step is God inviting you to take next? And when something comes to your heart, or when you feel like God is showing you a step in your soul, don't discount it because it's difficult. Don't discount it because it seems impossible. Embrace that, because if God is asking you to do something, He will provide what you need to do that. He never calls you to something without providing what you need to accomplish it. That may be internal strength and courage. That may be the connections with other people that you need. That may be other kinds of resources. Whatever He calls you to do, He will provide what you need to do that, but you will need to take action. Let me just briefly review those two questions to ask in the two-part prayer again. The questions to ask, number one, who has God built me to be? What ingredients has God built into you for His specific purpose? And then the second question, who is God sending me to help? God's purpose for you is always bigger than yourself. Who is that in your world that God is sending you to help? And then the two-part prayer. The first part, Jesus, help me. You cannot accomplish the purpose He calls you to on your own. You will need His help. It's about you following Him much more than you asking Him to bless something you want to do. Jesus, help me. And then the second part, what step do you, Lord, want me to take next? Frederick Douglass is credited with saying, I prayed for years and got no results until I prayed with my legs. There will be some action God invites you to take in moving forward into His purpose for you. What is that? I pray that these thoughts on entering 2019 are a blessing to you. I thank you for being part of our podcast family. And I would invite you to go to drcarolministries.com/podcast and leave a comment or a question. It would also help us greatly if you would go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts from and rate the podcast or leave a review. That helps other people find relationship prescriptions with Dr. Carol. Thank you again for listening, and may God bless you today and throughout 2019.
Thank you for listening to Relationship Prescriptions with Dr. Carol. Our purpose is to provide trustworthy resources that help you and others live fully alive in every way as God intended. If you would like to help others experience transformation in their lives and relationships, we invite you to partner with us. Text the word GIVE, that's GIVE, to the number 512-980-1620. Or visit our website at drcarolministries.com/donate to make a one-time contribution or monthly gift. Your financial support allows us to expand our message and to help others. Thank you so much.